Hey, what's up? My name's Samuel Leeds. I'm just sat with Raja. Now, Raja is a very successful property entrepreneur. He literally has built up his whole portfolio, doing phenomenally well off the back of watching my videos. So I'm gonna interview him. He's doing social housing, rent to rent. He's done some sales, very, very, very profitable deals. So you wanna listen, you wanna take notes, enjoy. Raja, great to have you with me in the studio. How's it going?
Hi Samuel, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Really good actually. Surprisingly, even though we're going through a pandemic right now, still managing to smash it and carry on with deals.
And this is the very first time we physically met.
Yeah.
Because you've done all of the training online.
Yeah.
So respect.
That's the crazy thing.
I mean, like literally, YouTube is a powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
You went down the rabbit hole of YouTube. Tell me how you got into property, how that came about, right at the early stages.
Yeah, so it's been a couple of years since I've been interested in property, and the interest really sparked from your YouTube channel. So I was at university, as you do whilst you're revising, just watching videos in the background, and one of the ones that came up on the side as a thumbnail was one of your videos, and I had a listen through, and I was like, wow, okay, this sounds really interesting. Like, there's a lot of other strategies that I hadn't heard of, like rent to rent and lease options. So yeah, let me do a bit more research into this. And then obviously you release content quite regularly, so it kind of spiraled from there, like listening to every episode and kind of thinking, well, if Samuel can do it and you had your winners on a Wednesday as well, and if all these other people can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just made like loads of notes off of the back of it and built up a bit of networking over the past couple of years as well before I got started.
And at the time as well, I hope you don't mind me saying this.
Yeah.
You were considering coming down to a crash course or not?
Yes.
And you were strongly advised not to go.
Yeah.
What happened?
So it was really annoying and frustrating now looking back at it because, like I said, I've been networking with a few different people and been to a couple of events, and these were paid events as well. Like they weren't even free events; they were paid events. And people, like I spoke about, like going on training and stuff like that. People said, don't go to any training, don't go into any crash courses, like it's just a sales pitch kind of thing. And now I look back at it, I really regret not going on those courses because I think I could have got, number one, a lot of value from the course, number two, a lot more value from the network and like the people that were at the events as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I mean, I know you've done ridiculously well as it is, but it kind of didn't start until like February, March time when you really started doing it,
which is when
worst time to start, and we closed down all our courses by then. So I know we've been doing videos and online and stuff, but anyway, forget with all the bad stuff. Maybe you could have got there faster and whatnot, but hey, over the last 6 months you've done some crazy things. Your first deal didn't go too well.
No, it didn't. So I'll talk you a little bit through that. So basically and this was completely off market, I managed to source a property through Gumtree, and I went and viewed the property. It looked amazing. The landlord just refurbished it. However, for my strategy, because I specifically focus on social housing and supported living, I had to kind of get it to the HMO regulations, so fire doors, strips and all that sort of stuff. Because we were just coming into the pandemic, I couldn't get a contractor out to come and like complete on the property. So I probably had that property for about 4 weeks before I kind of had to say to the landlord, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to hand this back. I can't move forwards with it. But I was quite lucky in the fact that the landlord was happy to give me that kind of as a rent-free period anyway.
Right.
So I hadn't like eaten into any profits or anything like that, and the landlord was very understanding. Like,
so there's more time wasted than money.
Yeah, exactly. And he knew obviously it's a pandemic, it's difficult to get people out as well. So unfortunately, I had to hand that deal back.
Yeah. It happens though. In fact, I was just sat with a guy last week. Called Nigel, and he's done really well. Similar to yourself, he's done really well with rent to rents. His first deal was atrocious. It didn't work out. And I think, again, the difference between winners and losers, the reason you're on Winners Wednesday and not Losers Tuesday, we don't have that, thankfully. But I could do. I'm sure I could equally as find as many people that have tried and failed. Yeah. But the difference between the two is that winners fail, but continue.
Yeah.
Losers fail and give up.
Exactly.
Everybody fails, and you have to fail your way into success. So I'm glad that you failed, and I'm glad that you publicly talk about it and openly say it. Yeah. Because most people would have given up at that point. So, pandemic, deal fails, hand back the keys, load of wasted time, maybe a little bit of money even wasted as well. Then what happens?
Yeah, so at that point, I was like, well, I've kind of learned from this first deal that I probably need to have a power team in place instead of just kind of reaching out to people on the go. So I spent a little bit of time contacting people, getting contacts in my book, found a great couple of contractors. And then at that point I was like, right, I'm going to go back out again and, you know, make an attempt number 2. And at this point, because I'd built up a bit more of a network, I started speaking with sourcing agents as well. So I had a great chap, his name's Ronaldo. He helped me source another property, and that was through an estate agents. And basically, we took that on, and because I already had the people in place, we managed to get the works done pretty quickly. It was like literally over a few days. Yeah. I think to get that set up, it cost me $2,500 for the sourcing fees.
Yeah.
About 2,800 for the like slight refurb and HMO work. So like really, really cheap, really easy to get into, like everything under 5k. And that property, I've still got it. Even though, you know, we're in a second lockdown, everything's still going really well off the back of that. Making $650 a month on that one.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
So you put £2,500 down.
Yeah.
And then you're making $650 a month. Is that right?
Yeah, and I had the cost of the HMO works, which is about 2,800.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was about $5,000 all in. Made my money back. So yeah.
That's great. I mean, I usually say with rent to rents, you want to make a minimum of £500.
Yeah. And
you want to make sure that you're making a 100% ROI, which you are. Yeah. So that was a cracking little house.
Yeah.
However, that's small fish compared to some of the other stuff that you've been working on.
Yeah.
In fact, your deal after that was a little bit bigger than that, wasn't it?
A little bit.
Talk me through that.
So after that one, I kind of basically all the properties that I look to do, I'm like specialised in a specific type of rent to rent. So I work with social housing providers.
What is social housing providers?
So social housing. So what we do is we work with people who are temporarily homeless or they're slightly vulnerable. They could have been through like domestic abuse and stuff like that. Those type of people don't always go directly to the council. There's things called housing associations and registered social landlords.
Yeah.
So they get referred to these schemes, and then it's their job to either have their own properties, which they then put into, or some of them work on like a lease scheme basis. So they'll work with private landlords to lease their properties for a guaranteed rent.
Yeah.
And they'll then place these tenants into those properties.
Yeah.
So that's how that model works.
Very niche.
Very, very niche.
Not loads of people know about it.
No.
And you've really studied this.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is it about social housing that you love? Is it just the money? Is there a giving back part to it? Talk to me through.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I've got some of my houses in the exact same way.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's not only is it financially it can make sense, but it's also quite a rewarding thing to do.
Absolutely.
So maybe talk to me about that.
I could make more money if I was letting it out to professionals.
Yeah.
I could make more money if I was letting it out to students. I am making a slightly smaller margin from doing social housing and supported living on a rent-to-rent basis. However, it's the fact that you're really helping people in the community.
Yeah.
There's people who really need houses, like huge lists, especially in Birmingham as well, and London as well. There's huge lists of people that require housing, and some of them are still in like really horrible, like dingy hotels.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they had to get like sort of food vouchers, don't have any cooking facilities and stuff like that. So for me, yeah, it's great that I'm making money at the same time, but I'm also helping someone move from somewhere where perhaps they're kind of forced to live to somewhere where they can choose, okay, this is a really nice house. Like most of the places I take on have been recently refurbished.
Yeah.
So like this place, new carpets, new paint, all that sort of good stuff.
So when these people move in, to them it's like paradise.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think that's so rewarding. So this second deal, and I always say, you've probably heard me say this, start small, but every time you do another deal, make sure it's bigger. And you slowly go bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
You took that to heart, right? Literally, you went real
I
big.
took that to the next level. Yeah.
Tell me the figures of the second deal.
So once again, working with the sourcing agent that I had on board, Ronaldo, what we did was I kind of said to him, look, I've got a huge need, as I mentioned, like with social housing supported living, the tenant list's huge. So I've kind of got like an unlimited need for properties. Like you bring me a property, I'm going to take it on. The great thing is as well is because I had investors on board, even if I ran out of my own funds, which at this point I didn't have a lot of, I could get someone else to back the deal. So then we moved on to looking at other areas. So Bradford is another area which is great for social housing and supported accommodation. We managed to come across a investor who owned a block of 38 apartments. They're all studios, and this was like the next step up for me. I was like, wow, I'm going from like single units to like blocks now.
A 38 block student apartment.
Yeah.
And you took it on a rent to rent.
Yeah, so what we did was we spoke with the landlord, and like half of it was let out for students and half of it was like used as serviced accommodation. But he was like kind of running the operations, and he's quite an old chap as well. So like he was like just a really tired landlord. And I managed to get in contact with him through the sourcing agent, had a little conversation about social housing, supported living, how it all works. And he was like, well, if it's all hands off for me because I'm going to be doing all the work instead of him, he's happy to take a slightly lower rent and just sit back and relax and like almost practically retire. So I gave him a guaranteed rent off of the back of it, and I'll be honest, the profit margins weren't huge because they were studio flats. However, that deal in total per month was making me £1,900 per month.
And that's pretty passive, right?
Yeah, it was passive. So the thing is, for me, it was just getting the deal set up and the contracts written and stuff in place. Once the social housing or the supported living providers in place, they kind of have their own like in-house management team and stuff. So everything's pretty much done for you.
So you sign the agreement. Yeah. You're then making £1,900 a month.
Yeah.
Passive income.
And then end up selling it.
And then you end up selling it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Why did you sell it? I know you were kind of forced to sell it a little bit.
Yeah.
But and it ended up being very profitable.
Yeah. So
talk me through what happened.
For me, Bradford is still quite far. I'm based in Derby, whereas like Birmingham, where I got my first property on board, is quite local. It's not far for me to travel. So every now and then within my business, what I do is, even if I do work with landlords, I still go and check on the properties just like an estate agent or a letting agent would. And I kind of thought, I don't really want to have to go up there every now and then to go check on the properties. Luckily, the housing association that I was working with, they were interested in also purchasing properties and land. So they actually had a discussion with me about purchasing the property, and I was quite fortunate in the agreement that I had to have kind of like first right to refusal if the owner was to sell.
So hang on, the owner wants to sell, but you've got an agreement that says that you've got the right to refuse them selling it.
Yeah.
But you thought, actually, if they pay me a decent chunk of money,
I can just sell
it means then I've got some cash.
Yeah.
And I'll sacrifice my £1,900 to have that chunk of cash. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, so like a lot of people might think, oh, well, you could have had a long-term income from it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I was going through my head.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, at the same time, I wasn't just thinking, oh, I've got 38 units and this is the end of it for me now. I had quite a big goal. Like, I want to build like a really, really big property portfolio.
Yeah.
And for me, the long-term goal is actually to own assets as well. So I can't disclose the amount, but I got...
Yeah, why not? Tell me the amount. How much? No, I know you can't.
I signed an NDA with them, so I can't, unfortunately.
But it was enough to put into your next deal.
Yeah.
Which is... even bigger!
Yeah.
Dude, you're an animal! Go on, what's this next deal?
Yeah, so it just keeps snowballing. So obviously I went from, one property to then 38, and now this is once again working with a sourcing agent, which has been absolutely amazing for me. But once again, we managed to source another block. Instead of just one block, it's 3 blocks. Over the 3 blocks, it's 184 units in total, and these are student accommodation, so this is like huge deal.
That's not no money down deal though, right? You having to put some money down.
So I'm having to put some money down.
How much?
So in total it's going to cost me about between 20 to 30k. Okay. I've got to like change over mattresses and stuff like that.
You're going to use the money that you got from the...
That's the beauty of it, yeah.
Okay.
So when I started off with this strategy, as I mentioned, like I literally just had £5,000 to put into the deal. The money that I've got now is obviously all come from the selling of the last deal that I had.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that I took that option because in all honesty I probably wouldn't have had the funds to do this deal right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've still got your £650 coming in a month from that first rent to rent.
Yeah, still got that. Yeah,
still got that going.
So I've still got
well.
cash flow coming in. And now with this deal that I'm taking on, the 184 units, we're just applying for planning permission. It should take anywhere between 8 to 13 weeks.
Yeah.
And we should at least at a bare minimum be able to achieve like a 2-year temporary change of use. But best case scenario is we get it repurposed from student accommodation to supported living.
Yeah.
When that deal kicks in, I'll be getting approximately about £30,000 a month.
That's great.
Yeah.
You haven't got the keys yet though.
I have actually got the keys.
Oh yeah,
the keys.
I just did. I always say never be at ease until you've got the keys. So all right, I've got the keys. That's good.
Yeah.
So incredible deal. And let's see how it pans out. I'm sure by the sounds of things, it's going to pan out really, really well. What would you say the risks are though to people? I mean, rent-to-rents potentially are a bit risky.
Yep.
Buying from deal sources is also risky.
Yep.
Doing big deals is risky. Do you feel that there's a lot of risk to this strategy, or where are we at there?
There is risk, but it's down to you to kind of work your way around those risks. So, for example, when I got into this, I knew that although I am getting a guaranteed rent from the housing provider, there are things that go wrong with the property. One thing that did actually happen with the property that I've still got on board, the one where I'm in at $650 a month, is we had a pipe burst in the property. So temporarily, I have actually had to kind of stop the rental on that property to get things in and sorted. So for a month, for that period, until everything was sorted, I wasn't earning any income from it. Had I taken out all the money from my business and spent it, I wouldn't have been able to pay the rent to the landlord.
Yeah.
So it was kind of having that plan in place at the beginning, knowing that things can go wrong, and instead of taking all the money out, keeping it within the business.
Are you planning on investing as well, building up your own portfolio?
Yep.
From the profits of the rent to rents?
Yeah, so with this student accommodation deal, obviously I'm going to get quite a sizable amount out of it. My goal is not to then go and waste all that money. That 30, 40, however much I'm going to be getting per calendar month is all going to go straight back into purchasing properties. Every single month my goal is to be purchasing a new property and working with investors as well.
And how old are you?
24.
24. Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, you're doing really well for 24. And I think that, I mean, how we kind of I know you've been watching me on YouTube for a couple of years and doing online videos and stuff, but you invited me to go on your podcast.
Yep.
And Amelia, my talent manager, got the inquiry, looked into it. She rings me up. She goes, Samuel, there's a guy called Raja, and he's asked if you can go on his podcast. I was like, okay. She says, I've gone on his website and stuff. He's doing crazy things with rent to rents, and he also on his website credits you.
Yeah.
And says, I know everything. I know it from Samuel Leeds. Check him out and all that. And she's like, so I reckon you should go on his podcast, but I also reckon you should get him on Winners Wednesday.
Yeah.
So what made you agree to come on Winners on a Wednesday?
So obviously, like you mentioned, I've been watching your videos for a couple of years. So literally everything that I've learned over the years has just been watching your videos. I've not had any mentorship from any other trainer or anyone else like that. Everything I've learned has come from your videos.
That's amazing, man. Wow. Yeah. It just shows the power of YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I mean, I believe in paid training. I think I encourage people to do paid training. But I guess it just shows that the content that we put out there, it really does work.
Yeah, and I think even with me just watching the YouTube videos, as you mentioned with the paid training, I think if I did come on board with a class instead of listening to people around me saying, don't do it, I could have been successful a lot earlier.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you will still do some paid training with us at some point, because hey, it's the free stuff's paid off. But no, it's incredible. And on Winners Wednesday, we have a real diverse, different people from different types of training in that. So if people want to check you out and check out your podcast, what's it called and how can they check out the podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast name is Real Estate with Raja. I'll send you across a link so people can just click on in the description and you'll be able to head on there. But if you want to contact me or anything like that at all, you can find me on Instagram at Rajastagram. But yeah, it's probably the best way to contact me.
Incredible, that's great. Well, I'll definitely be subscribing and I'll be tuning into the podcast. What advice would you give to someone starting out? Maybe they're young. What did you study at university, by the way?
Accounting and finance.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So someone starting out, maybe young, just finished university, that wants to go into property.
Yeah.
What would your advice be? First steps to start?
Number one, I think the most important thing is actually saving your money. That's something I didn't do at the start, and it's probably the reason why I got started a lot later actually, and didn't pay for any paid training. So number one, I would say definitely save. Have at least 5 or 6 months worth of savings compared to how much you usually earn. And on top of that, actually go out there and do it. I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people will read or even watch the YouTube videos, maybe even come to the crash course, but then not go and do anything after that.
Yeah.
So you've got to take action. As I mentioned to you earlier, I spoke with a chap called Jay, who's also been on Winners on a Wednesday.
He's one of the sources that's been passing these
deals.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and he's one of those people where I hadn't met him before, not too long ago. It's only been a couple of weeks since I met him, and he's bought me so many properties. But he's one of those guys, and these are the type of people that you need to have around you.
Yeah.
That are just out there and they're just doing deals after deals after deals.
Yeah. He did pay for the training.
Yeah.
Maybe if you'd have paid for the training, you wouldn't have to pay him to find the deals.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
But hey, you're taking massive action.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see. So I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
And great. So final piece of advice for somebody that needs that kick up the bum motivation or that golden nugget, go.
Just go out there and do it. There's no other way of you achieving success without going out and implementing it. Once you've got that knowledge, whether it's paid training, whether it's reading books, whatever it is, obviously you've got to book yourself, haven't you? Buy
many books. Yeah.
Go out there, get the knowledge, and just implement it. I mean, I'm not exactly 30, 40 years old. I'm not a seasoned investor or anything like that. I've started off fairly newly this year, but I've gone out there and I've made the effort, and without that I wouldn't get 184 units come out of nowhere.
Absolutely. And I think as well, when you're stepping out big like you, expect people to try and protect you and tell you not to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's. Have you heard people saying like, "Don't do it," or "Be careful"? You've had that.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, I didn't get a great reception from my family to start off with. They didn't quite understand the concept of like rent to rent. So I think educating the people that are around you as well is an important part of it.
People will tell you not to go and do the deals, not to attend the training, not to, because they love you and they're trying to protect you and keep you safe.
Yeah.
But actually, you don't necessarily need that.
Exactly.
You know, you need that when you're a baby.
Yeah.
But when you're a grown man,
Yeah.
sometimes you just say, actually, Mom, I love you, but I'm going to get around some millionaires that are going to drag me over the finish line.
Exactly.
So, hey, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, buddy.
Thank you.
Honestly, massive, massive respect from me. So, congrats. I look forward to seeing what happens with your next big deals.
Yep.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I think you'll agree he's a top guy. Please do me a massive favour, smash the like button and turn on the notification subscribe bell below. If you want to see a whole bunch more, every single week I interview someone that's killing it in property as a result of my training, whether it be free training, paid for training, but you can check out a whole list up here. There's over 100 people that have had their finances revolutionised through property. Also, you can subscribe right here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.